tenderloin, arguably the best cut of beef you can get. Hotels and restaurants serve it up. They usually do filet mignon, they do medallions. We're gonna do something a little different today. Today, it's all about the meat. So tenderloin, being as costly as it is, when you go to the supermarket, you can buy a tenderloin roast already cleaned up. You're gonna probably spend about 10 bucks a pound on it. Or you can go to a wholesale club or ask your butcher for a whole piece. And especially if you're having an event, a function, friends coming over, whatever. Or you can cut it up into steaks and freeze it. But what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna show you a little bit of how to do some trim work on it. So that way there you can buy it at this stage. When it's still in its wrapping and you're getting the whole tenderloin, you're probably getting more for like 7 or 8 bucks a pound, which is still a little bit on the high side. And you're gonna pay a lot more because you're buying the whole piece. But if you work it, you can actually save money in the long run this way. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna trim this right out of the case, and I'll show you how to do a little bit of butcher work on it. That's the only negative thing about tenderloin really, is that there is some trim on it, even though it costs so much. But the good news is, you can utilize almost everything on it. So I'm just gonna get rid of this wrap here. And really, what the tenderloin is on the cow is it's underneath the rib cage, right along the spine bone. So you've got the sirloin and the prime rib on the outside, and the tenderloin just runs along the inside of the rib cage. And that's why it's so tender. That muscle never really retracts at all, so it stays nice and soft. But there's this little fat cap on here, and what we want to do is we just kind of want to separate it with our fingers a little bit, because we don't work. You have to be very careful when working on it, because you don't want to waste losing any of the meat. So just start to work your way, work your fingers down, and it really kind of tears apart, separates itself pretty easy. So then you can get down in there with a knife and pull it aside. Now, this piece here, what a shame. A lot of places turn this into hamburger. They run this through a grinder and grind it right up into hamburger meat. That would make an awesome hamburger meat. Now, you can try to trim it up for yourself, but there's some veins that run through it, and they're kind of gristly, so you got to be careful. You can make steak tips out of it, but you got to be real careful how you cut it. We don't necessarily need this part today for this episode, so we're just going to trim it and put it aside. And really, what we want to get is we're doing a nice stuffed, by the way, I didn't tell you, we're doing a nice stuffed tenderloin. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to find an evenly thick piece. That's the only part that we really need for our roast. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and Bob can get in here and see this. There's a silver skin, and this part you really can't use. You can peel this membrane back, and this trims right off. But this silver skin here is pretty much the only part of the tenderloin you really can't use. So we're going to trim this back. You can't even really grind it up. It's pure, full-fledged, straight-up gristle. So trim this part back, like this. And just to kind of show you, we're going to go around the whole thing and trim it as we need it. But just for time in the episode's sake, I'm going to show you what we need on our end. And like I said, be very careful what you're trimming off, because especially if it's going in the trash can, see how close to the skin I got on that? You really want to try to get as close as you can so you're not wasting any of that expensive meat. So now we want this section right here. So I'm going to trim this piece off. Now, this part here can be trimmed up into medallions, can be trimmed up into filet mignon, and I'll give you an example. This right here. Oh yeah. In the restaurant, what we'll do is we'll wrap a piece of bacon around this and grill it. So we need a piece about this big. What we're going to do is we're going to flip it over now. You can see we've still got some underside stuff to trim. So basically the best way to do this is to scrape it with the back end of the knife. Instead of just going in and cutting it right out, all you got to do is just scrape it, like if you were an ice scraper on a snowy windshield. And that fat will come right off. And the coolest thing ever is, if you've ever been to a fancy restaurant, you see on the menu, steak tartare. There's a steak tartare right there. They actually eat it raw, it's served raw. So you just kind of scrape that little bit of fat off there, and you're good to go. And that's really all there is to this. Now let's take a look at this whole thing here. See, again, I don't want to waste any of that meat, so be very, very careful what you're trimming off. Some of the fat can stay, it's okay. A lot of places are very fussy, they like it completely clean or whatever. I I'm a big fan of fat as flavor, so it's fine. Now, a little bit there, that's about it. Again, scraping is the best way of not tearing the meat apart. So now, this is the tricky part. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna butterfly this open, and what I mean by butterflying is to split it open flat. But I wanna get this stuff out of my way here first. So I'm just gonna move this aside because I need a little bit of surface room to work. So pile all that stuff up there. I'll work with that stuff later. Now really, what you're trying to do is you want to go about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch up from the cutting board, and you want to just kind of make a cut, make an incision like that. Before I go any further, I want you to notice what I have set up here on the camera. I've got a cutting board with a pan underneath it for a drip pan. Now, that's a luxury. If you don't have that at home, it's fine. The main reason why I did it is you just never know how much liquid is going to be in those packs when you cut that tenderloin open. So I always do that just to catch the extra runoff of the extra juice that's in there so it doesn't make a mess all over the table. Just a little tip. So anyway, now we're going to cut into that. We got it probably about 1 inch deep, and then you're going to peel it back. And that's what it looks like this so far. And really, now you've made that first cut, you're going to stay that same thickness and just keep peeling back. Just keep peeling back. Unroll it, just like if you were unrolling a scroll. Boom, now, there it is. That's beautiful. I know I made it look easy. A little practice and it's a lot easier than you think. So I've got it laid out flat here. I'm going to take a piece of plastic, we're going to put it right over the top, and we're just going to tap it lightly with a hammer. And the main reason why I like to do that, it's more of a precautionary thing. The main reason is to try to evenly distribute the thickness of that meat, because especially in the beginning when you don't have a lot of practice, you can have some parts a little thicker than others. And this way here, what we want to do is we want to try to distribute that weight so it's nice and even. And you don't really have to pound it down like a veal cutlet. You just kind of want to just tap it down, find those thick spots. So it's almost uniform, it's almost one size. And I think that's probably good. Now, I'm going to start to reduce a little bit of this port wine. And what I've got here is I've got a tawny port, and we want to reduce it down. I'm going to save some for our sauce. But this is just a standard port that you can get at a package store. And you want to cook that down to at least by half. And so it's almost like a syrup. So we'll let this reduce down, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. So we're about the consistency of about maple syrup, I'd say, is perfect. Now be careful, it's really hot after the reduction, so you may want to give it a second to cool out. What we're basically going to do is we're going to actually pour this right into the meat and let it permeate that meat, let it sit right in there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that right in. Just be careful, it's really hot. And it's okay if it spills out a little because I have a little trick. We did it earlier. Our next item that we're going to put inside the tenderloin is our house fire roasted peppers, and you can actually check out how we do that on the Depending on Forno episode. But we've done that and we've cleaned them up nice. We're going to lay them right in there. But see, I actually poured the stuff in there and that sauce is going, so I use that pepper like a sponge. Just kind of suck up some of that extra sauce. Throw it right inside the tenderloin there. Now the pepper's got the same flavor. Throw that right in there too. So don't be afraid if the sauce spills out a little, because you can always just kind of sop it up with the pepper and put the pepper right in there. Now, we're going to roll it and we're going to tie it. And this is the really cool part, because what we're going to do is we're just going to roll. I just spun it this way. I'm going to fold one end over. And when this roasts, what's going to happen is the pepper is going to be a spiral inside the tenderloin, and you are going to look like a rock star. So we've got this set up like this. So we're going to take some simple butcher's twine. And what we want to do is roll it out about an arm's length, because you want to make sure you have enough to tie. And I know it's only a small roast, but you'd be surprised with what we're about to do. So just take a knife and just snip it at that point. And what we want to do is you're going to start it, and it's just like floss. You're going to floss the cutting board of the meat and just slide right under that in about say about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And that's going to be our first knot. And really what we want to do is a simple knot. Just loop it over and pull it nice and tight. And then we're going to go over it one more time and do a double knot. Okay, so that's our first knot. Now this is where it gets really kind of cool and fun. You take the rope like this, the twine, just wrap it around your wrist, just like that. Just a simple wrap. Then we're going to take it and we're going to floss again. And this time we're going to go a little bit deeper, probably about an inch or so from the first loop. And then we're just going to pull it tight. Check this out, this is what happens. Just keep pulling pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and then we've got, boom. So then we do it again. Wrap it around your wrist, so you got a little noose there, and you're gonna floss that part through again. And go again one more time, about an inch deeper than the last knot, and just pull it tight. And see, what we're doing is, not only do we have a nice tight wrap around, but we're also building connection to the former knots. So, same thing. One more down. And this will be the last time around on this. Then, what we'll do is we'll take what we have and come around. And what I mean by that is, we've got a little bit of rope here, a little bit of twine still here. Come over the top. Take one and come under the middle one. This way here now you've got some string on the end holding it in, and you're also reinforcing the bottom. Then flip it back over again, and then give it a simple knot right where you started. And that is how you tie beef. Chicken's a little different. We'll have to do chicken on another episode. It's called trussing. I think we talked about that at one point. I'm not positive. But I used to be a Boy Scout. I think I could tie a simple knot here. That's fine. Now, what we're going to do is, that's our roast. We're good to go. So now, we're going to set this up in our pan. So I've got a roasting pan here, a narrow roasting pan, good size for this piece here. We're going to set the oven at 300 degrees, and we're going to probably let it go for about 20 minutes. You want to take it out of the oven at 115 to 120 at the thickest part of the roast, which will be right in the middle. And then what we'll do next, while it's roasting, is we'll make the pork sauce reduction. And we'll finish it up with a nice sauce. But what we'll do first, before we pop this in the oven, is we'll just give this a kiss of the edge, right on the outside, because the edge, believe it or not, makes a real nice crust on the roast. And then I've got some fresh chopped rosemary that add a nice essence to it. We'll pop that right on there as well, and let that go. Man, I'm telling you, you're gonna love this. So I'll pop this in the oven, again, about 300 degrees, about 20 minutes. So I've got the pork reducing for our sauce. We're going to put the finishing touches on the sauce for the beef, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the music. We have Demilitia, that heavy, heavy sound you hear in the background. These guys are pretty tough. Anyway, the name of the song is Visceral, and you can check them out on their Facebook page, through a link through our website, anodizedchef.com, or you can check them out at Bandcamp. The name of the EP is called At the Altar of the Earth. Man, this is real heavy stuff. So we'll finish up the sauce here. We'll get ready for the beef. So we've got our pork reduced. I put about a cup in there. We're going to reduce it by half. And then what I have here is, I'm fortunate enough to have a little bit of au jus left over from prime rib night that I'm going to put in there. I got about a cup, but you can use a cup of beef stock, reduce it down, and tighten it up with either a roux or a cornstarch slurry, just to kind of give it a little bit of a sauce texture. But I'm going to go ahead, and now that we've got the pork is reduced just so, I'm going to go ahead and add that right in there. And just let that reduce down as well. The thing about the beef stock, though, you got to be careful because you don't want that high sodium content because you want the sauce to be too salty. So find the low sodium beef stock if you're going to do any kind of reduction with it. And remember, don't let it reduce too much. You go ahead and thicken it up because you don't want that salt to just completely destroy the sauce. So what I've got with the au jus is it's already got a little bit of a cornstarch thickener in it, so we won't have to reduce this much more than this. Really what we want is we just want a sauce underlay for the plate. We're going to make it real nice for when we bring that beef out and carve it and set it up. So we're almost at that point now. I'm going to go ahead and just give this a quick taste. Oh my goodness. All right, we'll shut this down. So we took our meat out at 120 and we let it rest here for about 10 minutes just so that way the juices tend to fall back into the meat. If you take it out right out of the oven and you carve it right away, notice how it's really juicy and the juice just runs everywhere. Well, the meat ends up drying out and becoming even more, overcooked and not as moist. So if you let it rest before you carve it for about 10 minutes, then what will happen is the flavors and the juice will stay right in there. So ideally that's what you want to do. So then what we're going to do now is we're just going to go in here and we're just going to pick that rope out of there that we tied around there. Trim it back. Because you really don't want to eat any of that. So I'm going to take it back. Oh yeah. Now comes the delicious part. put a slice into this. Look at that, Bob. That is incredible. So now if you're serving, this is probably enough for about 4 people here, 4 to 5. Give two nice slices. And this is really, really nice. Okay, so we'll take our sauce. And what we'll do is we'll just line the bottom of our show plate here with that nice syrupy, glazy kind of sauce right on the bottom. Just more or less bed for this deliciousness here. And then you just take these 2 pieces here and you sexily lay them right on there, just like so. And you've got your nice little rosemary sprig as an accent on there, and there you have it. Now you can pair this with your favorite potato, roasted potato. You could do it with a nice risotto, steamed vegetables, however you want to do it. But really, I wanted to focus on the meat to show you the different cut of meat, how to work with it, and do something a little bit different with it. So that's really what that's about. Let's switch gears. We'll get right into the wine. For the wine today, we chose a 2008 Snap Dragon Cabernet Sauvignon, and when Bob and I tasted it right with the beef when it first came out of the oven, we realized that the Snap Dragon Cabernet Sauvignon had a very bold fruit flavor, but it wasn't very sweet. So when we mashed up with the real savoriness of the peppers and the beef, and then the reduction of that port actually added the sweet to it, it was we found it was a really, really nice balance. So. And it actually made more fruit come out of the wine as we read the beef. So that being said, we wanted to say thank you very much for joining us in our magic, our madness, and our mayhem. We'll see you next time.